Hey everyone, how are you doing? So good to see everybody. Trust that, trust you're doing good. Welcome. Thank you for joining the group of where I think some of the best free thinking, brightest souls, intellectuals come and meet every day. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you to all of the moderators. So happy to have you here and being a part of this, and they keep the conversation good and healthy for all of us. So much thanks to all of you, and welcome Susie Q as a new moderator. So far out. Yeah. Let's see. Let me just speak favor over all of us. Hey, every day we need favor. And what we're going to go through today, we're going to need a lot of it. So, hey, I'm just saying, man, it's like going out in the middle of a snowstorm or a rainstorm and just getting yourself covered or soaked, however you want to do it. Either way works. And that's what we're discovering. It's that, whether it's wet or frozen, it's still rain, right? Still water. How is everybody? Hey, Nick Girl, how are you doing? Good to see you, my friend. Happy New Year's to you. Hey, Pamela Jean, so good to see you. Truth in Me and B3 and Loretta, good to see you. Unknown Blues Girl, guitar, far out. How are you doing? There's Jack, 68. And T-Cat, good to see you. Lots of good people here. Hey, Susan and Nita, good to see you as well. And Terry, and wow, far out. Delia, hello. Robert V, Chris, and the list. Marcus, good to see you as well. So, boy, we got some stuff to cover. I'm just going to get right into it. Oh, by the way, here in, I would say in the next month or so, we're really going to have fun with, this is Timothy Leary's book, Your Brain is Your God. Yeah, when you read what he had to say in his experiments and how you can actually check it out for yourself, you begin to realize that the construct of God can only exist inside of a brain. We have no evidence that it exists out into the spirit realm. None. Anyway, we do go places here where even angels will not dare to step foot on. Oh, that's some good tea. That's my tea. I mean, I don't have a sponsor, but I just really enjoy tea. It's just, all right. Got a lot to cover. So I'm going to get right into it. Now, this is Nige. In fact, you see him as the Devil's Playground. Going to have him on. Going to have Chris from over at Forbidden Knowledge on, and getting other people to come on. So it looks like I may start doing Friday nights again. I don't know. We'll see. All right. So I want to read this to you because this is the type of mind candy that really provides great coitus in the thought realm. All right. So follow along if you will. And I think my mic is good. Yeah, it's a good, strong mic. All right. Have you ever thought that maybe you've been fed disinformation on purpose? You're not any different than William Cooper. Quite possibly, you're already working for us and you don't even know it. It says realize it, but it's one and the same. It's as plain as black and white. You either accept this, join us, or perish. It is what is meant to happen. It's humanity's destiny. Evil is good and good is evil. We are the yang from the yin in this world. Without us, you would be a mindless drone in utopia, always worshiping God without really loving him as the great architect of the universe. We bring the order in society. We've created the balance. I already don't like these, whoever we are. Now, dig this one, folks. Everyone take a sip. The very toothpaste which you use, hopefully multiple times on a daily basis, could be infecting your body with all of the horrendous materials we've crafted. Our diseases have been pushed into absoluteness. There is nothing that our sinister tentacles have not infiltrated. Why do you think so many believe and trust the FDA? If only they knew the ingeniousness behind the booster shots, the flu shots, the antibiotics, and their biological mutations. We're profiting from the death of your family, friends, children, spouse, and even you. Ever been to the doctor? Had surgery? Or have been in an emergency room? Remember that saline drip? You were never asked for your consent to push this cold, clear killing agent into your blood. But you were led to believe it was to rehydrate your body, as if your body doesn't naturally do so already. Look at the society you live in. Who are the new icons in America? Not politicians, hardly athletes, but your musicians, especially rap artists. We have controlled the African population in the American states so well. We've glorified their impoverished lifestyles. Their purposes are to only breed like the cells of an infectious disease and completely waste any money we've given to them on a slew of material objects we've designed solely for them. We build them up, making them feel like they have equality, even give them a TV station to reach the masses, to continuously force down their throats what, how, and why we want them to act. We've given them their own magazines, as they done us, and every group. This is the thing. They've segmented us, and they know it. And they've got the data to prove it, as if we actually care about your culture. They have been our best test subjects, aside from a few of our own. Our very existence was created by God, for God, of God. We cannot be destroyed without first destroying the great architect of the universe, which is the definition of impossible. My brothers are the ones who save you at the banks, create your food, make the vehicle you drive, the house you live in, the clothes you wear, the movies you watch, the books you read, the music you listen to, the fragrances you wash with. Absolutely everything in you, on you, and around you, we have created. God may have made you in his image, but we bred you into existence. What is imperative is that you know the extent of our ownership over you, namely your soul. You have been given a number. We have been given the master list of the numerals enlisted for death. Our salve is death. Our secondary aptitude is control. Together, we have become the unstoppable force, blowing in the wind, inhabiting every shadowy corner of the world. We are that unspoken word, ready to be spoken, but only when we determine the time is right. Wow. And now we continue with our lesson for the day. We left off yesterday, and the reason why I did that, folks, it is so brutally in your face. I mean, that's the ice bucket challenge all over again, except this time there's no getting out. And you're going to see how this perfectly syncs with what I had already produced before that was ever sent. And thank you, Nigel, appreciate it. So we were talking about the harvesting grid. We're in it. All of us are. If you're on the internet, you're going to have a reaction. It can be anything from the mundane to the exotic. These systems are literally used to pull energy from the masses and pump that energy around a network which people in the elect groups then pull from. This energy creates a kind of spiritual empowerment, and when used properly, can bring longevity and even immortality. And that's the Holy Grail. The richest of the rich. It is said that they have in the past, to extend their lives, different elixirs, different things that we don't even understand. I think it was, who was it? Which queen was it? Queen Victoria? That, thought bathing in the blood of virgins was a way to keep herself in the longevity line. The truth of the matter is, all mortals do die, just as all gods die. There is another realm. You see, we've got this split construct that has been forced into us. We think that there is something that rules the same thing in the physical as the same thing in the ether. And I can assure you, and I'm telling you right now, folks, it has been a lie, complete misdirection. Think about it. Because we can't define something in the physical, only that which we see, and that betrays the other belief that there is something that is over there, that barrier beyond, that can be transcended into the physical. But when you start breaking this down into the molecular, the atomic structure, it's interesting what the soul can produce. So what we have here are wars. We have, most of these wars, by the way, are completely invisible to the vast majority of people. You've got time wars, spiritual wars, psychotronic battles. And the thing about it is, reality does not fade with age. Think about that. Entire wars have been fought over the use of this energy, and the technology is so advanced that literally time can be altered using cyclotron technology, and a parallel reality can be acquisitioned and overlaid over this. That if you look at that TR3 patent, that inertia mass propulsion system, they're talking about this as well. The mind of those in the general public would not be able to see the real event, and everything can be cleaned up as if nothing ever happened. How many of you ever saw the movie Jupiter Ascending? That was very accurate. Also, Men in Black, that the vast majority of people have actually witnessed not only just paranormal, super paranormal events, but it's because of what has been done. We are a race with no memory. Remember that. This has been done so many times that the original or actual timeline looks like something out of a movie while the version we have publicly is literally something like an ancient past with all the important and advanced activities edited out. There's a lot when you think about the past, about technology. If that technology existed, the natural laws of nature would say it has already advanced far beyond its original. There's this thing they deploy called the magic of the mind. It's, it's like being in a tar pit. Once your foot steps in, it's going to cling to you, and it's very difficult to get it off of you. And that statement is for everybody. There are no exemptees in this one. The main concept here is that this is like a magic eye picture with the foreground and background alternating so that the conscious mind and the subconscious mind coexist in a reflective relationship where one interplays with the other. The conscious mind presents a singular, segmented view of the multiplicity of possibilities that the subconscious mind has full access to. How would one gain access to the subconscious and still remain present mentality? This is all mitigated through advanced technology, but firstly through advanced practices and focusing methods to train the mind to refined awareness and see through the distortions and biases that are inherent, to the humans. It's quite amazing. We've talked about this. We functionally, we use 100% of our brain. We only access 10% or less of its full capacity. Why? Why? It makes no sense. What could be the hindrance that would prevent a biological being? It would be like having your hand and only being able to move your hand this way. You can't move it any other way. You can't move your fingers. You can't do anything. You only have 10% use of your hand. Now, please explain that to me. And if you're saying that it's the natural law, you are deceived because it defies the natural law. This is deep, folks. So, are you purposely disorganized? You may be one, and if you come into my desk, when you come in my office, my wife will tell you, you're entering into the Wayne zone. I'm going to tell you something. We are the savior to this construct. Follow me. This is directly connected to one's ability to self-reference and thereby anchor one's focus in an extended or extra-dimensional locality, which gives access to possibilities that exist outside the present physical referenced reality. Gets better, folks. Along with that, there is also an inherent capacity of the higher mind or spiritual awareness to overcome the individual bias and connect with a source of a non-local, unbiased, or pure awareness. This is directly connected to one's ability to self-reference and thereby anchor one's focus in an extended or extra-dimensional locality, which gives access to possibilities that exist outside the present physical referenced reality. We have seen this, the Titans. I mean, there is just innumerable, and it's just not the ones in commerce and industry. This covers the Christ consciousness. This covers the Buddhists. These cover those that have come with a message of an alternative way of thinking. That's why the message of the Christ is so polluted today. It no longer contains the power that it at one time possessed. This is part of the training and part of the discovery. The human is naturally extra-dimensionally aware. However, the majority of the knowledge is filtered by the conscious mind and remains in the subconscious outside of conscious view. This is where the dichotomy of light and dark, knowledge and ignorance, comes into being. If a person has not observed and acknowledged the pseudo-dark contrast boundary within the perceptual system, then the filtration process of the conscious mind will remain fully active, and the knowledge that is hidden behind the perceptual boundaries remains invisible. If one overcomes fear and the base desires of temporary pleasure, which feeds one's ego and generates a pseudo-persona, then the hidden knowledge of the unconscious mind is more readily available. And there is a refining process where the perceptual boundaries are reorganized to provide a proportionally expansive view of reality. It's as if the general idea is the same, but the details are all enhanced. That is the true reality, far beyond what the conscious mind limits down to. This is deep. I know it's deep. But folks, we have to be honest. As much as you want to be a positive proton and positron and just think that, it's all going to be okay, baby. Problem is, history says something different. And again, remember, only using 10% of the capacity of your hand. I mean, it's what extinguishes us from everything else. We have the ability, the dexterity of the thumb. There was a MASH episode, I remember Hawkeye did the most amazing thing about the hand. And when you really stop and meditate on it, what a feat of engineering it is. I mean, it can do miracles. It can create worlds. It has the ability of identification. It has the most uniqueness of creating out of nothing. But you never think about that. No, like the masses, you take it for granted. We're all guilty of it. And that has been the problem. 10%? If the brain is a muscle, then the apathy of the muscle has made it virtually useless. Think about that. It comes down to mind control. Mind control systems control the generation, of reality. We find that very hard and difficult to accept, that our reality is nothing more than a generated hologram. Think about this, folks. Reality of what we see does not exist. It only exists by the external stimuli to 5 senses. And through those 5 senses, reality is generated. Does reality exist for a person in a coma? The control systems that have been implemented on the masses do not just alter the masses' way of viewing reality. They literally alter the reality that is being viewed through the altering of the mind's filtration system. Those filtration systems are established almost after birth. Some would argue even prior to that. They are the natural tendencies of bigotry, racism, biasism, prejudice. It goes on. The other aspect of this is that the conscious mind is like a portal into the subconscious. If people are always around programming in the form of voices, symbolism, rhythmic presentations of information, imagery, commands, suggestions, and so on, trigger words, I could go on with this, then the information will trickle directly into the subconscious mind. This then can alter the filtration process and slowly conform a person's mind to the intended reality stream. Over time, the world can go from one reality to an entirely different one. And here is my proof. If you could bring a person that lived in 1920 and brought them into the world today in 2020, they will tell you, this is not my world. This is not my reality. This part of the system and everything that is to come, if people are to change, then they must change from within, from the source of the intent and free will that powers this whole system. There is not only a surface level of reality built around this, but the underworld and the higher plane as well. They've all constructed it for us. Think about it. Do you have a choice to think about what is in the afterlife? This all extends above and below the surface of energetic fields, which the soul can interface with just as the body interfaces with the physical plane, as the soul interfaces with the body. Yeah. I know I'm sensing many of you, it's the light bulbs are going off. These realities operate on a different temporal range, and thus thousands of years of experience can pass on the higher plane. The main issues here is that the control system of Earth in this age have generated a chaotic, energetical, scarce system that projects pain and suffering into one's mind in order to function. Punishment, reward, carrot or the stick. This is a result of the unchecked subconscious energies of the human mind, as well as the capitalization of those unchecked energies in the use of cultural generational systems as the means of mass control, mind control. The system of energies and non-physical realms is literally a living organism that seeks to squeeze the mind to produce the required pain and suffering. Remember, it's a feeding system. We are but food in so many different realities. This is largely a result of, or at least connected to, the mass amounts of continuous pleasure and hedonism that is present in the unviewable portion of the public control system. Folks, why do you think the pornography industry dominates this web? Why do you think the pornography industry, the sex industry, is the leading testing of humans in robotics and the takeover of AI? Producing sexual pleasure that is even greater than that which the human can generate on its own. I'm going to be doing a series on sex magic because this is how a lot of the control works. Even the most prudent, or how shall we say, prude individual, prudish in conceptual, cultural, religious ideas, is being manipulated by the same thing. All that pleasure has to come from somewhere, as everything is expressed through the collective mind. And so where energy goes up in one location, there must be a release in another. It's a pressure vessel, folks. The psychic wars. Now, this is completely unknown to the masses. And I will dare say, even in the truth community. In fact, I have read that the truth community is one of their best playfields. This system of the mind, when the construct is exited, one's intelligence returns to a much higher level, and one's awareness functions in ways that are reminiscent of childhood dreams. Remember when we talked about go back, time travel, folks. Go and meet that other you. Don't abandon it. It's those that abandon it say that, well, you have to become adult. Who says that? Show me who says that. No. You lose the magic. You lose the connection. We know what is seen is not what is seen. All of us have experienced the sensations of being watched. It's inescapable. There's a reason for that. The human biological consciousness system is organized in such a way that there seems to be an inherent weakness in the capacity to fully realize the nature of time and the multidimensional reality. Along with that, there is also another inherited capacity of the higher mind or the spiritual awareness to overcome the individual bias and connect with a source of non-local, unbiased, and I'll just say this, pure awareness. These have been the ones that, sadly, mankind has overlooked, terminated, ridiculed. It just goes on and on. There's a thing called the karmatic loophole. Instead of the energy changing like a natural tide of those experiencing pleasures and others experiencing hardship, the pleasure is stolen and the hardship is manufactured by the same groups who stole the pleasure to begin with. The interesting thing about humans is that we are easily controlled, manipulated by the pain-pleasure syndrome. This extends to addictions, whether those addictions, and they cover the full gamut. It gets a little deeper in that, but nevertheless, it's still good to remember how the system is set up, and we're all participating. I like here what Calvin and Hobbes explains Newton's first law of motion in your own words. And of course, he just goes, and he says, I love loopholes. Isn't it the truth? The legal system is based on loopholes. If you're a good, smart, ingenious attorney, a mind that's built for the battlefield and strategies, you'll make a great attorney. Yes, the minds of children are searched, and where there would be an individual who threatens the public damnation of the human race, that individual is put through a program to replace their mind with that of the programmed beliefs of the programmers. Excuse me. That's what's happening today. Public schooling is programming, reprogramming. It's within those most impressionable years where the subconscious, the conscious, and the spirit are all still intercommunicating. But through indoctrination, whether it be through idealizing, I could just use, doesn't matter. All programs have an agenda. I wish there wasn't. But anyway, this is why. And what we don't understand as a species is that our children are these huge emitters. They're emitting incredible amounts of psychic energy. You could say it's spiritual energy. You could use whatever, secular term you want. But we don't recognize this. But there is those in control that do. That's why you see violence increasing. It increases the fear. When I was in school, I had no fear. The only fear I had was of the coach or the assistant principal with the paddle. And even that was a form of programming. Any and all dreams are converted to nightmares. And there is a great pleasure gap opened up in the non-physical realms, which is then lapped up as the pain is converted into their enjoyment. They assume that the person's role in a parallel reality and take in all their benefits. We have proven parallel realities, universes exist. Could you imagine now a group of beings that have the ability to inject themselves into this reality that they help create and provide a non-interrupted, continuous food source? Do you ever think about how we are feeding through a connection of a realm that is right before our eyes that we cannot see? And that there is this other universe that's literally feeding off of us? Think about that. And the original individual is delivered a life of suffering, condemnation, persecution, and literal torture. Many of us are tortured in our souls Many of us have developed techniques to overcome that, but it's still ever present. Many people have said, I don't belong here. Well, you're right. That is how they convert pain to enjoyment, through literally a sadistic enjoyment of a person's bioemissions of suffering, as well as literally replacing individuals in different parallels and living an endless system of lives as people who have good karma. Apparently, this is all a temporary patch, and every essence must be returned in time. Apparently, this is part of the cause and result of a subhuman deterioration of those who have used this losh technology to literally eat the souls of children, because when all of their stolen energy must be returned to the rightful owner, and all their karmatic oppression must be delivered rightfully to them, the suffering is so greatly distorting that their very energetic signature converts from something like a human to something closer to a hybrid, subhuman, or an underworld being. You don't think about the soul eaters, do you? When a child, and we now have reports as young as 7, commits suicide, what is that, folks? Now, we can get in all the sociology and all the psychology, et cetera, but we fail to always acknowledge the obvious, the spirit, the soul. It won't enter into psychology because that's parapsychology. As Einstein said, that's that spooky stuff. So we choose to ignore it. Why? We're programmed to. We cannot accept that everyone walking in a meat suit is in fact human. If we want to get real technical about this, everyone walking on this planet is a hybrid. There are no more pure humans. They're long gone. We are a Heinz 57 sauce. There is no purity of blood, no purity of race. Homo sapiens sapiens are probably the most contaminated genius of man. We have failed on a galactic scale. Remember, 10% use of your hand. Really? This loophole. You see, if you go into court and you're not aware of the laws, and you do not know how to speak the language, and you do not know how to write the language itself, legalese, then you will have no idea how to navigate, circumvent the labyrinth, finding the loopholes. And if your butt is on trial for something, you are going to be forever grateful if you happen to win, got off because of a loophole. It exists. Here's the thing, folks. These beings, whatever they are, they have been trading places with humanity for thousands of years. And this is the whole system in one sentence. Beings from a lower dimensional realm are brought into this realm through advanced technology and dark energy practices and inserted into the genetics of humans so that they replace that person's life And from there on a being who literally comes from a kind of dimensional hell realm and exists in this society as a human being. I did a program last year. Why is it that man cannot find Shangri-La, Elysium, Utopia? We dream of it, we fantasize about it, we write about it, we make movies about it, but we're always promised, if you go down a certain path, or if you make yourself subservient to this God, or to that God, or to whatever, that the afterlife is going to be filled with those rewards. Isn't that the biggest freaking con? A rational person would say, prove it, Jack. Yeah. But the gullibleness of what we have become as a species, is it any wonder that chaos rules supreme today? And folks, it's about to get worse. I have been warning you now for years. There has been an opening, a pouring in, and we're seeing the evidence everywhere. These are the psychopaths. They do not have a human soul signature. This has all been confirmed through advanced Telesian energy systems that can produce resonant feedback fields, which can be used to gauge, very similar to the Scalion photography, where subtle changes in the air are used to generate shadows, which can be viewed on camera. A system can be used to detect the soul, which is a refined spectrum of energies that are emitted from the living body. And there are two races of humans, those with a soul and those who operate through a technological soul matrix. The technological soul matrix does not extend as far as the source that the organic soul matrix extends to. Heavy, heavy, heavy. Yeah. They do not have a human soul signature. We're so ignorant. When we get a little piece of knowledge, we suddenly think that we've become masters of the universe, never realizing that it was fed to us for one purpose, to distract us, to get us off the path. If we were merely just to collect them and put them into our backpacks and say, well, this is cool, we can keep this and we'll look at this later on, because it's like anything else, folks. If you merely have a piece of a very large something, you're never going to know what the large something is, because you think you have it already in your small piece. They live among us. They are the agents of chaos. You elect them. They're your politicians. They're your police officers. They're your presidents. They're your congressmen, your judges, prime ministers, pastors, priest, pope. This technical matrix exists, but it's the point that what has been cut through this, left out, is the spiritual aspect, because that's what really is the important part. The technological soul matrix remains within the physical plane and an extension of a finite degree above or below. The second major aspect of the unveiling is that there is a technological system that is currently beaming out a large portion of the conscious mind impulses that the masses are feeling. And this is actually generating a reality stream that would otherwise not be present. Folks, imagine, as I said to you yesterday, that the Dark Ages never existed. Where would we be today? Oh, we still only got 10% use of our hand, our brain. This is to say that this current reality, which is generated by belief, as all realities are, is being motivated by a technological system and in tandem with a mass of people who are not conscious enough to override this system. In that way, this current reality stream is literally being manually manufactured through a hijacking of the mass perceptual system. This is part of the explanation of the so-called mind matrix, which is literally a kind of perpetual algorithm system that brings up a series of perceptual gateways that challenge one's mind when they begin to move out of sync with the artificial propagated mass-minded control reality. And folks, there are experiments in university levels and even now in the private labs, folks in the military, industrial machine, that will drive the average person insane. Reality is extremely fluid and perceptual. The shift of ages. And when you're being manipulated, you're not aware of it, but yet it is. The technology and biology, immortality, time travel, consciousness transfer, hidden knowledge, DNA activation, mass awakening, the secret operations, the reality of the soul, higher and lower realms, extra-dimensional consciousness, and the universe. That's a mouthful. Well, that covers the full gamut right about there. There's a serious issue here. And this is that when the physical surface reality is no longer viable for conscious experience, people must be able to comprehend a reality that goes beyond the current limits of the conscious mind. This is the main issue, that each species has a limited window of opportunity to return their awareness to the level of activity that exists beyond the limits of the physical reality construct. The construct is a collective, shared reality system. This system is a created system that exists apart from each individual consciousness, yet integrated to all that are present. Outside that system of experience, each individual awareness produces its own reality in the moment that they experience. This is kind of like the concept of walking through the air and imagining where each step will land as you go. This is an amazing concept which totally inverts the interplay between conscious and subconscious mind and literally puts the conscious mind within a larger mind rather than a collective, an objective, physically shared reality. Both versions can still experience a shared reality, yet one is inherently each mind to themselves, while another is inherently a collectively experienced co-reality system. We're all seeking that hidden knowledge. The real secret societies have always been in control. We're told today what these interpretations are. The fact is, how do you know? The real secret society has always been in control, and the only requirement is for people to wake up. However, this seems to be the most challenging requirement in the universe at the moment. Yet, is not the entire purpose of the universe and the moment to become aware of the universe and the moment? So this is something inevitable. And there is simply a very wild ride that people must go through and remain centered throughout in order to reach the next age. This will include the restoration of balance in the mind, as well as a collective cleansing event, whereby very powerful symbolic events take place and awaken the sleeping part of the collective consciousness mind. These events are simply what is required to heal a great mental distortion that has turned the collective vision outward and thereby dimmed the internal present. The present cannot be fully extinguished without disrupting the entire show. However, there is a great requirement for the internal present to be restored, to restore a cosmic balance to the whole system of life. The human destiny is to reawaken and restore a balance to the universe. That is the nature of the story here. The collective unconscious is inherited from our ancestors. If our consciousness collectively has been altered, erased, rearranged, that which we have inherited from our ancestors is lacking. That lacking is what's caused a great deal of confusion. The pain in the collective heart must be healed and the internal mind restored, just as the internal mind must be disrupted by this materialistic age of the materialistic age. Folks, I can't express to you, commerce is a necessary part of societies, cultures. But we are in a different age. This materialistic age will have to fade and become disrupted for the inner mind to awaken. A harsh reawakening is not necessarily required. However, the majority of people experience some degree of horror or hysteria when going through this spiritual process. This notion is gained from experience in the unacknowledged special access programs that are designed to literally enable this mass awakening through specified individual testing. Suffering is not necessary. Let me just say this. However, again, a great calm is required so that one can move past the range of consciousness where debauchery, blame, projection, hatred, self-induced mental disharmony, and unchecked desires, egos, let's go and continue on, are the forefront of the conscious decision or impulse-making process. When the thoughts, words, and actions are guided by the lower mind, then the whole reality here is backwards. And that's what we're living in. We know that this current reality is not right. So there is a mass awakening. This is another aspect of how this world is kind of projected inversion system. Simply put, since reality is generated out of a collective belief, and this system is controlled by a hijacking of the collective belief through a manipulation of the lower conscious mind. Religions. All religions are debased when you look at them. There's no pathway for it to ever get to that, and that's the problem. This is what it's talking about. There are two consecutive degrees of manipulation and simulation that are simultaneously producing the collective reality as well as an individual experience for those who are within that mental system. If one is entrained to consider the conscious reality the most reasonable and spiritually accurate reality, then the entire flow of energy is backward, which blocks off and obscures the source of all truth and all life. This is present as if in a metaphor or dramatic expression across the current society. However, individually, mentally, if this system guides the energy, then one's energy system is fighting itself and the inner mind is dimmed or obscured to that the unconscious or lower mind is now operating under the guise of the conscious mind. It's literally like a puppet turned inside out and upside down. That is the nature of the energetic inversion and manipulative system we live in. This is also the simplicity of the solution. If a person overcomes the lower mind, the entire reality begins to shift for them. If a proportionally sound portion of the individual begins to join in this restoration of inner awareness as the source instead of the external in control, then the collective reality shifts and the collective inner mind awakens. Those who read this and understand will know what this means. This is actually how things change. This is how the collective mind awakens. When people begin to simply listen to the inner process that works through intelligence and reason rather than impulse or lower desire, then a restoration takes place and a portion of the population will do this, and it will be a kickstart that the collective mind is needing. As well, there is an increasing acceleration of events that is mapped like an inverse square of intensity according to the actual current level of technological advancement and the projected resistance or advancement of the collective mind in relation to the world events. As far as I was informed, everyone is working towards a mass awareness at this point. As this is understood, there will be a required solution for the situation with this technological and spiritual control system. Folks, that's what's happening. The nuns, they call us now, exploding. More people are walking away from organized religion, but this creates another problem. And we have to be able to begin to address it. This is literally the closest people have been to an opportunity of awakening since the beginning of this control matrix. There is liberation. The mass awakening will accelerate and guided by protective groups. This means there are waves of extraction of the current system, which is shutting down and can no longer function to carry life. That technological artificial relay system is collapsing on itself and has been propped up for some time. The purpose is to safely transition the mind of humanity into a valuable natural feedback and conscious reality system, because otherwise it will be akin to an event of mass lunacy. We were literally shown and told that the moon is a military installation from the previous civilizations and is used to slow down the mind and in turn slow down the perception of time, which literally acts as a time anchor and keeps people within a certain frequency range of their consciousness. After too long, that becomes a trap system, leeching energy from the conscious mind of everyone and thus limiting the conscious collective to a kind of frequency barrier that must be overcome in order to leave the artificial energy construct. This system of the mind, when the construct is exited, one's intelligence returns to a much higher level and one's awareness functions in ways that are reminiscent of childhood dreams. Reality does not fade with age. One's mind is literally tuned into a system that was designed to limit your intelligence so you don't learn too fast and break the training reels, so to speak. Now that system is being overcome. However, those who are already done with that system must be patient, because there are many who would be driven mad by the truth of what is actually happening and what has happened. The original humans, before this system was activated, had a greater activation of their genetic capacity, and this brings about memories of the other instances of one's genetics in the universe, as well as a greater functioning of metabolism at the point where people lived a very long time, if not an indefinite amount of time. They were different. If you imagine that the particular genetic configuration is a series of programs stored harmonically, and we move to the level of understanding how that system functions properly, one could refine their existence to produce an optimal, functional, or even restore a maximal capacity of their genetic material. If the information transfer simply increases and enables a conscious adaptation to challenges, then living for a longer time and becoming immune to disease does not seem paranormal. If this is a biological nature, a system that can be adapted and enhanced, or even comes from an enhanced origin, then a restoration to that original quality is the most reasonable assumption one can make. Either that or a genetic dissolution and continually degradation of what occurs is happening to us. What may be is that both occur, and those who choose to accept self-responsibility and self-awareness and compassion, free will, and knowledge gain that extra dimensional conscious control over their biological and can continue to refine their awareness into a heightened capacity. What is seen and thought is nothing more than illusion of the thoughts by the controlling beings. I know I've gone over, but I felt that it was important to conclude that out there. Thank you for staying with me. It's mind-blowing. I know it's deep, and we could spend hours on these topics, and we will. Too much information going through my head. Yeah, I got that. But it's true, folks. I think there are more and more people awakening to not accusations, not anger, but coming to the conclusion that the systems aren't working. As much as we would like them to, wish and pray they would. Thank you, Julianne. Thank you, David. The emperor has no new clothes. The emperor is naked. And when we begin to realize this, folks, the nonsense that we're seeing taking place, the world's, we're on a precipice here. And I have said this to you time and time again. It's only going to take a spark, and from the most absurd reason. And if ET exists, I can only say this. If ET exists, they are not benevolent. Because if this controlling factor exists, and it does, and they've known about it and had the ability to interdict on the behalf of humanity, I want to know why not. Well, thank you, Infinite Frequencies. Well, it's very kind of you. All right, folks. So thank you for, I really did go over it, but it's important that we get this because we're going to be talking more about it. I know I just shoved to you like, you're wanting to get a drink and I just gave you a fire hose and you're going, I can't get a drink. Yeah, I get that. But we have it out there. We'll use this. Well, Tammy Brown, thank you. That's very kind of you. Anyway, appreciate that. So, and throughout the year, we're going to be we're going to have guests. Everything we covered these first couple of days was important. I think it sets the tempo, it sets the pace, and it sets the foundation from where we can now begin to add on to what we're building here. And I got no idea what we're building. I'm just the guy driving the bus, but any case. All right. Much love to all of you folks. I will see you back here on Monday. Have yourself a great weekend and, party like it's 1999, right? Read, I hope all of you are readers. You should be reading at least one book a month. Actually, you should be reading one book a week, but one book a month. And we'll do that part. If you follow this channel, you've already met your quota for the year because we covered well over that. Hello there, Lori. How are you doing? Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people are going to be rewatching this one going, what the heck did he say? But think about it. The evidence is all around us. I came out of the film and video industry, television, film. It's a created illusion. But out of those stories, like All in the Family, the Jeffersons, Barney Miller, and then a number of other programs. Folks, what they did, they were setting what the next reality was going to be. It's an amazing process when you get into this thing. It's weird. They program it, and we make it happen. We're the juice. We're the juice. And think about this. I know 111 across the board. All right. And I'll end it with here. We never thought about this portal of literally a feeding tube to a different universe. You would want to keep us limited. And again, remember, if all we've had access to is just 10% of the full capacity of our brains, use 10% of your hand. It doesn't make sense. Something is defying logic and something is defying nature. That's what our quest is here. We're going to find out who's doing that. Because I believe when we find out that, folks, we're going to find out something that is going to set us free as a species. We won't have the murder. We won't have the poverty. We won't have the emotions that are completely out of control. I believe that we are a loving, telepathically advanced race. And somehow or another, something got screwed up. And that's what we're trying to figure out. And it's a journey. And there's this many different voices that have a part of that story. So, all right. Well, thank you. I'll see you on Monday for sure. And have a great weekend. And love yourself. And then you can love the person with you. Thank you all. Bye, Deb, and everyone. Bye, Lois. Say, I'll take care. Lori as well. Thank you, all the moderators, you all the bees. Thank you for the best, and thank you for the 2 donations. That's very kind of you people. It's appreciative. So thank you. Far out. Now I'm going to go and listen to some Steely Dan. Bye.